Hey folks, it's Hanny here from SidePro. In this video, I want to talk to you about applications and their ports and proxies and how things work in the cloud. Let's imagine that I have an amazing application that I'm developing locally on my laptop. I'm making incremental changes as I'm testing things out and refreshing my browser to see the changes. At some point, everything works, and now I want to deploy it to a cloud such as SidePro. But before we get there, let's focus in on some core concepts. When you're testing things out in your browser, usually your URL would be localhost :5000 as an example. The 5000 is actually the local port that the application is bound to on your local system. Most websites that you visit don't need a port when you punch them into your browser. They operate on standard ports such as 80 and 443 for secure connections. But locally for development, you would usually use a higher port, something greater than 1024. Anything below 1024 is a privileged port that requires root access in order to run. Now, when you deploy your app to the cloud, unless you've configured otherwise, it would run on that same port that is running locally, 5000. But as I mentioned, most sites operate on either 80 or 443. And through some advanced networking and configuration in the cloud, connections on 80 and 443 need to make it to your app on port 5000. There's actually a mapping that's going on from those standard ports to your application port. If there's a mismatch, let's say the cloud is configured to route to port 9000 and your app listens on 5000, you'd usually get some browser errors like a 502 bad gateway. There are a few ways to deal with this. The first is changing your application to listen to the same port that the cloud is mapping to, in this example, 9000. Doing this should allow the application to work and now start serving traffic. The other option is to reconfigure the mapping to match your application's port, in this case 5000. But all of this requires extra steps. SidePro's main goal is to go from code to URL in one push. If I need to think or configure things like ports, that defeats the purpose of the one push. So we've recently released a new feature of dynamic port mapping. The way this works is when your application is first deployed and booted, the system will automatically scan your application to figure out what port it's running on, and from that automatically update the mapping in the cloud. Let me show you how this works. If I come back to my command line and my favorite example of an Astro application, I can deploy this simply by running SidePro push. I'm going to enter a project name. I'm not going to use the optimized static site build just for the purposes of this example, and proceed to deploy. Now, once deployed, if I open it up into my browser, I get a bad gateway. The reason for this is the mismatched ports. By default, SidePro operates on port 8080. But if I check the logs, which I can do with SidePro app logs Astro demo, I can see that the application is running on Astro's standard port of 4321. Now, again, I can configure SidePro to direct traffic to this port by running SidePro app update -- port of 4321 for Astro demo. But again, this is an extra step, defeating the one push goal. So I'm not going to do this. Instead, I'm going to activate the dynamic port feature, currently available as a beta feature. So let's redo this example. I'm going to delete the app. And create a new instance of it using the push command. If I run SidePro push -- help, I can see that there is a new option called beta chart. The dynamic port feature is available in this beta chart. Eventually, when this chart becomes stable, it will become the new standard, and I don't need to specify it by hand. But for now, I need to do that. So, running SidePro push, let me clear my screen, with -- beta chart. It's going to ask me for the project name. And again, I do not want to use the static site build. And let's proceed to deploy. Okay, now that it's done, I can open it up in the browser. And within a few seconds, the application now renders. So what happened here? If I inspect the logs, I can see that SidePro automatically detected that there is a service running on port 4321, and then configured the cloud to now direct traffic to this port. This way, I don't need to worry about what port my application is running. It'll automatically detect it and redirect the traffic to it. Let us know what you think about this feature. Again, once it's stable, it will be merged and become the standard, so I don't need to specify it on the command line. This is an example of trying to deliver on that promise of going from code to URL in one push. Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching.